Tuwapongeze tena kwa maombi kwa huo wimbo. Asanteni sana. Your Excellency, with your permission to just give some welcoming remarks, allow me to now invite the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, to give some welcoming remarks, then in turn invite the Waziri. Karibu.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President and Julius Secretary, Minister of Education, my PS colleagues, PS Inyangala, PS Abdis, Teacher Service Commission, Vice Chancellors, CEOs, unions, captains of the education sector. Good morning. Your Excellency, allow me to begin by thanking you for finding time from your busy schedule to grace this momentous second National Education Conference. The objective of this conference is to review the progress made in our three state departments, that is competence-based education under basic education, competence-based education training under TVETs, and university education under higher education. Your Excellency, I want to take this early opportunity to thank you for the massive investment the government has put in education. We want to thank you very much for dedicating a lot of resources to ensure that education is on track. Indeed, in basic education, and I want to say competence-based education is the best education system ever this country has ever gotten. And we are confident to take education forward. Allow me now, Your Excellency, to introduce members from the Basic Education Department who have joined us in this conference. Allow me to request them to stand. Let me start with the team from the headquarters, together with the CEOs. Let's just stand for 1 minute. Members from the headquarters, Jogo House, State Department for Basic Education. Let's put our hands together to warmly welcome them. Thank you very much. We also have field officers, regional directors of education, county directors of education, and sub-county directors of education. Let's stand up kindly for HE to see us. Let's put our hands together to warmly welcome them. Thank you very much. Teacher Service Commission. We have also field officers from Teacher Service Commission, led by the chairman and the acting CEO. Let us request them to stand up. Teacher Service Commission, who managed to come. Let's put our hands together to welcome Teacher Service Commission. We also have our unions. We have NAT, Kenyan National Union of Teachers, led by the Secretary General, Honorable Oyu there. Let's put our hands together to welcome NAT. We also have KUPPET. KUPPET, welcome KUPPET. Let's put our hands together to welcome KUPPET, led by Julius Korir. Let us also appreciate Kesha and Kepsha, our heads of primary and secondary who have come here. Let's put our hands together to appreciate Kepsha and Kesha. We also have sponsors and partners who have been able to join us in this meeting. Let us request them to stand up. Our sponsors, our religious organizations. Let us put our hands together to appreciate our partners. Your Excellency, sir, allow me now to invite my PS colleague, Dr. Beatrice, to introduce the TVETs and higher education stakeholders who have joined us. Karibu, PS. Let's put our hands together to welcome PS Beatrice to make the introductions. Karibu.
Your Excellency, our President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Honorable Julius Migos Ogamba, our CS, Ministry of Education, Professor Julius Bitok, BS Basic, and PS Abdisalan, Honorable Julius Meli, the Chair of Parliamentary Committee on Education, Honorable Liz, the County MP for Nakuru, and Honorable Makilap. Allow me, Your Excellency, to stand on the already established protocols. Your Excellency, I'd like to thank you for leading the reforms in higher and across the whole ecosystem. You have challenged us, Your Excellency, to think differently, to work differently, so that we can transform the outcomes from the sector. In particular, at the university level, we are working to produce graduates who are more employable graduates with an entrepreneurial spirit. We are working to develop the technologies that will lead us on this road to Singapore. And we already have some very deliberate examples that we will share in due course. Today, the conversation has changed. It is no longer whether the reforms can work. It is about how we can innovate in our different spaces to make this work, to deepen the transformation. And I want to assure you, Your Excellency, that the spirit is collaboration. We are collaborating with private sector, across the different sectors of public service, with NGOs and with development partners, and the results will speak for themselves. Your Excellency, at that point, allow me to introduce the stakeholders of the higher education sector. Kindly stand and wave to Your Excellency when I call you. The chairs of councils of public universities and their governance teams present here today, led by Professor Bosire Mwebi. Let us appreciate them. The chairs of semi-autonomous government agencies in higher education and the TVETs. There are many, so I'll not mention them. Please stand along with your teams. Let us appreciate them right there at the back. Vice chancellors and principals of public and private universities, as well as principals of national polytechnics, TVETs, and the Kenya School of TVET, and your teams. Let us appreciate them. We also have a few comrades from the TVETs and the universities. Let us appreciate them. We have representatives of UASU, KUSU, and KUDHIA. They are welcome to this conversation. Let us appreciate them right there at the back. And last, but definitely not least, Your Excellency, we are accompanied by staff from the State Departments of Higher Education and TVETs. Kindly stand, we can appreciate you. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, on behalf of the elected leaders, allow me to introduce the Chair of Education Committee to be able to introduce the leaders present in a minute before I invite the Cabinet Secretary. Karibu Mheshimiwa Julius Meli. Let's put our hands together as we receive Chair Education Committee, and thank you very much for Parliament helping us to get the resources.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, CS Migozo Gamba, Principal Secretary is present, senior government officials present, and all education stakeholders. Good morning. First and foremost, Your Excellency, let me thank you for being educationist number one. In what sense? That this conference is the second time we are doing it this time, because it is the time when we listen to the stakeholders and bring the society and the needs as per what they have brought before us. I have come before this conference to this morning, but more importantly, to know that National Education Conference is a conference accepted by our Constitution. This is a stakeholders meeting where we share ideas, where we sit together, talk to one another, and make education what we need. Education is the pulse of the society. So I've come with my colleague members of Parliament. We'll be sitting here. We'll listen to you. We'll want to know how much costings you put into basic education, more so competency education in primary, all the way to the university. We'll want to know the various pathways and the various issues that you have in terms of human resource, because it is in the House that we have the national pass. So, Excellency, we are here to listen. We are here to also listen to them, the proposals on the legal issues, especially the legal proposals or amendments you'd want to have in the House to make education effective and to have the leadership of the sector well. So we'll sit through this meeting and we'll do a lot of listening, and at the end of it, we'll be able also to respond to a number of issues. So I'm accompanied by Honorable Liz Chelule, who is the women rep, or County MP, Nakuru. We give her a clap. We are also accompanied by Honorable McClap, who is a veteran, who was a veteran teacher, a member of Parliament, Baringo North. Give him a clap. Other members of Education Committee will be joining you and other members of Parliament, I know that from within this county, and we shall be glad to listen and to be able to make our presentations later. I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Meli. Your Excellency, sir, allow me now to invite the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Julius Migoso Gamba, to make his remarks. Let us put our hands together to invite Waziri. Karibu sana, Waziri.
Thank you, Professor. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, honorable members of Parliament here present, PSS present, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Your Excellency, allow me to begin by thanking you most sincerely for finding time from your busy schedule to grace this opening ceremony of the second National Education Conference. This conference is a follow-up of the first national conference that we held last year. It brings together key stakeholders in the education sector, including the ministry and state agencies, teacher unions and teacher associations, education administrators and regulators, institutional sponsors, development partners, universities, TVET institutions, professional associations, learners, and the faith-based organizations spanning the entire education continuum from pre-primary to tertiary institutions. This forum, Your Excellency, will review the progress that we made, especially in the rollout of the competency-based education, whose first cohort is now successfully settled in grade 10. It will also examine the many transformative reforms that we are implementing to ensure that our education system remains fit for purpose. This meeting will discuss authentically about what we are doing in the sector with a view to ensuring that we get the solutions that we require. Your Excellency, the theme of this conference, driving effective education reforms through leadership and accountability, is particularly timely to undertake extensive reforms across the education sector. As stakeholders, we have agreed to work collaboratively, identifying changes that arise in our sector. Your Excellency, our collaborative approach has continued to produce impressive results as we strengthen this sector day in, day out. In the basic education subsector, Your Excellency, your administration has employed over 100,000 teachers, with a further 16,000 expected to be recruited in the financial year 2026-2027. Additionally, 23,000 classrooms have been constructed. The first cohorts under the competency-based education are successfully transitions to grade 10 at the rate of almost 99.5. Further, Your Excellency, your administration has increased the education sector budget from 503 billion in the year 2021-2022 to the proposed 767 billion in the financial year 2026-2027, which is almost 30% of our budget. Your Excellency, capitation funds are now being released to schools on time, making in improving efficiency within our sector. In the TVET subsector, enrollment continues to rise steadily, and we are progressing towards our target of 2 million. We are currently at almost 800,000, having moved from 297,000 in the year 2022 when this administration took office. Additionally, we've employed 3,300 trainers with an additional 1,000 set to be recruited by July this year. Training fees in these institutions has also been reduced to 67,189, thereby making it possible for more students to join our programs. The curriculum has been modularized, meaning certification can now be done within a shorter period, enabling people to be able to acquire skills to earn a living as they continue progressively scaling their skills. We have introduced policies in the sector that are learner-based or trainee-based. For example, we now have the recognition of prior learning and the dual training policy in place that continues to support our learners. In the higher education subsector, Your Excellency, we've addressed persistent industrial unrest that previously affected that sector by establishing mechanisms for timely engagement and resolution with our unions. The means testing instrument has significantly improved, while tuition fees in higher education has also been reduced by between 15 to 40%, thereby making education in the higher subsector more accessible and more affordable. Our institutions and universities, Your Excellency, are also preparing adequately to receive their first cohort of the CBE learners in 2029. And part of the discussions here today will be how is that going to be undertaken. Your Excellency, leadership and accountability remain the twin pillars of transformation in our education sector. Teacher union associations, education officers, quality assurance officers are working complementarily together to ensure that we receive the responsibilities or we are able to get solutions together. Our collective leadership must therefore remain clear, collaborative, and responsive and accountable. To all delegates here present, I urge you to engage openly and honestly. Be authentic in your discussions so that together we can develop a practical and sustainable solution basis for the advancement of our education sector. In conclusion, Your Excellency, allow me to once again thank you for the immense support that you continue to provide in the education sector. On behalf of the entire sector, I assure you that we will remain steadfast and committed to ensuring that investments made in this sector yield the desired outcomes in our learners and in our institutions together in our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct honor and privilege to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his remarks. Please be upstanding as we welcome His Excellency. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Waziri. Please, another round of applause for Waziri. I think this gentleman has done an outstanding job. Asanteni sana, tafadhali. While I was sitting here and looking at the writing here on the sheet here, I was asking Melly, I am a scientist. I am not a linguist. And I was asking whether competency or competence. Some English teacher should help us, whether it should be Y or mutatueleza baadaye. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the conversation at this second National Education Conference is of such profound significance to the future of our country that it demands our full, collective, and undivided attention. This is because we are meeting at a profound moment in our country's development journey. As an administration, we are implementing the bottom-up economic transformation agenda with a clear focus on expanding opportunity, strengthening productivity, and ensuring that no Kenyan is left behind. Equally important, we have made a bold national commitment to propel Kenya into first world status in our time. Global experience informs us that countries that have fulfilled their development ambitions, from Japan to Germany and South Korea to China, Singapore to Israel, did not treat education merely as a social good, but as a national mission and a strategic national assignment. To share 5 broad reasons why education is and must be central to our development agenda. First, education develops human capital by equipping citizens with literacy, numeracy, technical expertise, managerial competence, and problem-solving ability, raising national productivity and improving incomes. Second, education facilitates industrialization. No country can move from exporting raw materials to building industries in manufacturing, engineering, pharmaceuticals, ICT, agro-processing, or clean energy without a skilled workforce, technicians, scientists, innovators, and many more. Third, education strengthens the capacity of the state. A competent civil service, an effective judiciary, a professional diplomatic corps, all educated and capable. Education enables innovation and innovate of their own. Education transforms societies. It reduces poverty, improves, lowers maternal and child mortality, expands opportunities for women, strengthens social cohesion, and promotes civic stability. In many ways, ladies and gentlemen, education is the single greatest investment a nation can make in managing its present and shaping its future. Indeed, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization that in developing countries, US dollar invested in education up to 50. Without this conference, driving effective accountability, our work and the engagements we are going to have in this conference. It speaks to the responsibility we all share to ensure that education reforms are not only well designed, but also effectively implemented and sustained across all levels and all systems. A working education system demands continuous and vigorous evaluation and review to align it with aspirations behind its introduction. This forum is therefore ideal, as it offers an opportunity for candid reflections on the state of our education. It is also an opportunity to assess our successes and reset our priorities. And congratulations, Waziri and your team, for putting this forum together. I know this is the second forum. The first forum, I wasn't able to attend. But on being briefed on the engagements in the first forum, I made the decision that I will be coming to this forum every year because of the significance and the importance of not just education, but the need for us to collaborate, harness ideas, correct where there are wrongs, and streamline the whole education program because, as I have said, it is the single most important investment any society, community, or nation can invest in. And that is the reason why close to 30% of our national budget is spent on education, not as a cost, but as an investment. It is the reason why we have progressively enhanced the budget in this sector from approximately 500 billion in 2022 to 702 billion in this financial year and 767 billion in the coming financial year. We don't treat the investment and the resources we are putting in education as a cost to us. It is an investment we are making in our present and in our future. And that is why the theme of this conference, leadership, accountability, which comes with integrity, and also collaboration, is a very apt theme that brings us together to realize that reform requires bold leadership because entrenched cultures don't give way easily. So we have to be courageous and bold to be able to implement the reforms that will align our education with the needs of the present and with the aspirations of the future. Accountability becomes a very central part of delivering on education because the resources we are allocating, the public taxes that we allocate to education, 700 billion shillings is a lot of money. And integrity must be front and center in us delivering on education and making sure that we can account to the Kenyan public on the resources we are spending in education. I have been in this space for a while, both as a member of parliament and subsequently as a minister for higher education. And I know full well how important and how impactful delivery on education can be to not just our learners, but to our society in general. It is the reason why I instructed the Ministry of Education to do a proper audit and to take the next step and digitize education data. You know, you will be well to know that when we carried out audit and when we decided to verify the numbers of students in primary school, the numbers of students in secondary schools, the numbers of schools themselves, you know, we got to know that there were 87,000 or thereabout ghost students in our secondary schools. Students we were paying capitation for, yet they didn't exist. We had 800 100,000 pupils in primary school. Government paying close to $1.2 billion every year for learners that did not exist. We had schools registered, close to 200 schools that did not exist. We are asking some very difficult questions to some of our head teachers and to some of our leaders in education at the county level. Because accountability, integrity is central to us making sure that all our resources are used properly. You will also want to know that because of this, we are now moving to the next step. And I have instructed the Ministry of Education that in the next 2 months, we're going to be working with the CONSA Technopolis to make sure that we digitize all the education details of every learner, every school, teachers, bursaries, and everything else, so that we can make sure that through technology, deployment of technology, using digital data, we can easily check on whether we have the right number of students, whether we have the right number of teachers, where we have gaps, and what we need to do. And progressively, we have seen what technology has done. I will give you an example. We had very big difficulties with agriculture. We decided that we are going to digitize all our farmers. We are going to collect data on all our farmers. We had tried it before for a very long time, almost 10, 15 years. We only registered 300,000 farmers. But we did a national exercise, rolled out a whole of government approach. Today, we have 7.2 million registered farmers. We know how many sugarcane farmers, how many coffee farmers, how many tea farmers, how many growers of wheat, how many growers of maize. Today, for you to buy fertilizer, you have to bring a digital voucher because we allocate every farmer, because we know farmer X has 5 acres. He cannot come and claim fertilizer for 20 acres because he doesn't have 20 acres. So the system automatically knows and allocates fertilizer on account of the acreage of farmers. We have dealt with huge cartels that were big problems to us because we digitized data. I want to encourage stakeholders, from our teachers to boards to parents, for all of us to agree to a digitization process so that it makes it easy for us to deploy all the resources we are deploying, whether it is capitation, whether it is bursaries, and everything in between. I am happy that we have teachers and teachers' representatives in our midst. The question I will ask my good friend Oyu and and my sorry, the leadership from Kupet, Keti Oyu, sorry. The question I'm going to ask them is, we have some head teachers who have taken us to court that they do not want to pay parents to pay school fees on e-citizen. They want to continue writing receipts on pieces of exercise book. Why? Honestly, mutusaidie. Why do you want to continue writing receipts on pieces of paper where nobody, traces your exercise book iliandikwa ilipotea, shule ilichomeka ikachoma na receipt sijui nini? Today, parents should be able to pay from the comfort of their homes on e-citizen school fees for their children, where we can verify the data, where we can know that this money was paid. We have made a decision. I have made a strategic decision that we do not want to deal in cash in this administration, because cash is very sticky, And that is why today you can pay literally for any government service, on a digital platform, through M-Pesa, through the bank, so that you have traceability and we can have visibility as government that so much money has been paid. So mutatusaidia Bwana Uju na Maisori na wadosi, mtuambie hawa watu tuwachane na giza, please. Wacha tukuje mahali kwa mwangaza hapo, kila mtu aonekane nini inafanyika, pande gani inasonga namna hiyo. I don't think asking for transparency is too much, right? But I'm talking about very few teachers. The rest of the teaching fraternity, many schools across Kenya today, they are accountable. They accept money to be paid on a digital platform. In fact, I have head teachers who have rejected cash. They've told parents, go pay using a digital platform because we want accountability. This is how we want to move into the future. And that is why I have singled out your theme here of accountability. If we are accountable, we can do more with the resources we have. And we can improve learning outcomes better with the resources that we have. This year, the first cohort of grade 9 learners under the competence-based education joined senior school with over 99% transition. We must safeguard the unique ability of education to be an equalizer for all by eliminating man-made bottlenecks that frustrate access to quality learning and stand between our children and a brighter future. Equally important is making available the necessary learning resources to our schools on time. Beginning this year, we have ensured that capitation funds are dispersed to public schools before the opening date. We are also accelerating the expansion of classrooms, laboratories, and other learning facilities to cope with the growing number of learners and the demand by the CBE curriculum. These reforms are reshaping our classrooms into spaces that nurture creativity, build practical skills, and prepare learners for real-life challenges. They are laying the foundation for a generation that is not only knowledgeable, but also innovative, adaptable, and capable of providing needed solutions. Indeed, even in the face of early skepticism, the results we are now witnessing speak for themselves. Learners who have transitioned to senior school are already demonstrating strong learning outcomes that affirm the soundness of our decision to reform the curriculum. The core competencies and values being inculcated, including critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and citizenship, are evident in how these learners engage with their teachers and interact with their peers. Their confidence, creativity, and the sense of responsibility are clear indicators that we are on the right path. This progress has been driven by deliberate and sustained government action. Since taking office, you've had the statistics as given by Minister Ogamba that we had 4 fundamental challenges in this education space. We had a serious challenge with competence-based curriculum. You all know. Many parents are complaining they are being forced to do homework at night. They are making cars at night, cutting boxes, and doing all manner of things. We had serious challenges with teacher numbers. We had a huge gap of close to 100,000. We could only hire 5,000 teachers every year. We had serious challenges of learning spaces. I will give you an example. In Nairobi alone, we've had to provide additional resources to create more learning spaces in the city of Nairobi. We're building an extra 1,000 classrooms in the city of Nairobi alone, just to make sure that the students, especially in informal settlements, have access to education. We had very serious challenges of the funding model that was more focused on the institution than the learner. We have since corrected all of them. And of course, we have 2 to go. Digitize the whole system so that we improve on transparency and we make it much more easy for decision making. And number 2, I have one last thing that I must do, and that is to sort out a higher education loans board so that we can have clarity. And I have instructed this man, that, and I've put him together with my team. I've given them some assignments that we must finally end up with a predictable, you can sit down, Monari, with a predictable resources. Because as we move some of our commercially viable programs out of the budget into the National Infrastructure Fund, we want to create space using, resources from the budget, from development partners, to fund more social projects, education, health, social protection. That is where we will concentrate our resources from the budget, because the rest of the commercially viable projects, we can move them to the National Infrastructure Fund and also to the private sector, building on the ecosystem we have, on public-private partnerships and all the other things we are doing in that space. So we've hired teachers, and I'm sure the teacher representatives here can confirm. It is not a story. True, wanaoyu na ndugu zetu? Yes. Yeah. The teachers we have hired in the last 3 years, it would take us 20 years if we hired them at the rate at which we were hiring before. But we made this deliberate because we could see the negative effects our learners and our learning and our education was suffering because of lack of teachers. We built more classrooms, as was said by Waziri, 23,000 and counting. We are building also another 1,600 laboratories across Kenya to make sure that no student, as has happened in the past, gets to a laboratory the day they are doing the exam. You know, how sometimes unfortunate it is. And we have reorganized the funding model so that it is student-centered. Through these investments, we are not merely expanding access to education. We are laying the foundation for a more equitable, competitive, and future-ready nation. At the same time, we have continued to invest in teacher development, expand digital learning infrastructure, and align education pathways with national development priorities. I'm very happy that STEM is now a real, program. And I was very happy that, the STEM students are up to 60, you told me? You are at? We are now at 52%, heading towards 60. And then we will keep improving so that we prepare ourselves for the future. We must be armed with the human capital that will take our country to the next level. At the level of higher education, we have undertaken bold reforms to ensure that access is fair, transparent, and sustainable. The new university funding model has shifted the focus from institutions to students, ensuring that financial support is provided based on need through a structured combination of scholarships, loans, and household contribution. This approach is enabling more young Kenyans to access higher education while safeguarding the long-term sustainability of the sector. Equally important is the transformation of technical and vocational training. We have positioned TVET as a critical central pillar of our economic agenda by expanding institutions, strengthening competence-based training, and deepening collaboration with industry. Through these efforts, we are ensuring that young people acquire relevant skills that lead to employment, entrepreneurship, and productivity, thereby directly contributing to national growth. I did inform Migosi and team at the Ministry of Education that technical education, and I had very serious challenges when I was Minister for Higher Education at some point on getting technical education to come to the center of our education and education outcomes. Because there was a notion built over time that the students who go to Tibet are the students who are not very good. And that was very wrong. And that is why we have changed the perception. I am very happy that today learners choose where to go on the basis of where they see themselves into the future. And as a result, we have increased the numbers. In 2002, we had close to 300,000 students in our Tibet. Today, we are at 800. Our target is to get to 2 million. I know there is a small problem somewhere which I'm sorting on matters to do with the resources available to teach those students. I have since discussed with the PS in that department and the Waziri, and we're going to sort it out. Because we had two challenges. We want to make sure that it is affordable. That is why we worked with the Tibet institutions to reduce the fees from close to 100,000 to 67,000. And we have also modularized so that certification becomes more frequent. And you can get in and go out as you get more skills. So that is now working very well with a bit of challenges, but we are sorting it out because we want to make sure that we have more people equipped with technical skills. We've run into some headwinds, for example, with our housing program. We need more plumbers, we need more electricians, we need more people who understand masonry. and we've had to resort to people who have learned on the job. And that is why we have also expanded the certification through recognition of prior learning, so that people who have learned the skill, who have the skill, they have a shorter runway in making sure that they get certification. The success of these reforms depend on the strength of our leadership, the integrity of our systems, and the effectiveness of our collaboration. Leadership must be exercised at every level of our education system with a clear focus on delivery and on results. Accountability must guide the utilization of resources and the implementation of programs, ensuring that every investment translates into improved learning outcomes. Collaboration must bring together government, educators, communities, and partners in a shared effort to transform education. And that is why this forum is very significant and very consequential. It brings all of us together so that we can listen to one another, sample the ideas that we have, improve on what is not working, change what is not working, improve on what is working, and tap into better ideas on how to take this forward. We all agree that this is a space that is evolving because society is evolving. There were courses that were not part of us a few years ago that now must be central to how we move forward. And therefore, we cannot afford to stay static when the needs of society, when the needs of industry are changing. That's why this collaboration, the coming together of stakeholders, sponsors of schools, whether religious organizations or private sector organizations, the public schools, and everybody in between must be part of this conversation. And we must admit that we allow ourselves for a good idea to give way to a better one so that we can improve the space around learning in our society. I have also stated that as we go forward, we are going to put more resources in science, research, innovation, and technology. Because I strongly believe that no society can grow or develop beyond its capacity to think. And we must allow ourselves to, get the best minds to think for us, to innovate, to research, so that we can improve on the knowledge that we have, we can create new knowledge, and we can use knowledge to drive our development. This conference, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, provides an important opportunity to consolidate the progress we have made, align our efforts, and strengthen the implementation of reforms across the country. It is a platform not for finger pointing, not for accusing one person against another. It is a forum for us to think together and to work together. The common good of education is at the center of this. It is a platform to generate solutions, share experiences, and reaffirm our collective commitment to delivering an education system that works for every learner and for our nation. I am truly proud to be part of this conversation here in Naivasha. Asante sana. I thank you, and I look forward to some more engagement as we go forward. Asanteni sana.
Another warm round of applause for His Excellency, please. And deep dive and unpack leadership, accountability, and collaboration in the education sector. And Your Excellency, the good book in the Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11, that to everyone there will be a time and a chance. The time and chance that we have as individuals and given an equal playing field is in the education that we receive. And at this point, allow me, Your Excellency, to invite the panelists, starting with the moderators. Come and take their positions in the most outer seats that we have. Followed by Reverend John Gatto, who is representing the religious sector. And we know that we do have quite a number of religious organizations that have stake in the education sector. Let's have NAT Secretary General Collins Oyu will also come on stage, followed by the CS Education. I'll repeat that. We have the two moderators, Emily Chebet and David Muchungu. Let's have NAT Secretary General Collins Oyu, together with Reverend John Gatto, also the chair of VCs, Professor Mugendi, to please join in that panel, the CS, and finally we'll have His Excellency the President joining us. Do we have all? Chair of VCs, Professor Mugendi. Then finally His Excellency the President. And with the panel constituted, His Excellency the President. We can give a clap as we welcome the panel. And I'll now hand over to the two moderators. Between Emily and David, you'll take the floor once we are seated. We can take our seats. Over to you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and all protocols observed. Good afternoon. It's already afternoon, right? Yeah, so thank you so much for this opportunity, and we welcome you to this very interactive session where we want to go deep and understand what really is happening in our education sector. So just to go straight into it, first of all, we want to understand why this is important to the government, and I would want to start with the Excellency, the President. But I think for us to actually get to it, everybody else, why are we here today? So that we can get into it, and then a few rounds of questions from myself and my fellow panelists to go ahead. So, Mr. President, it is 10 years into the competency-based education. You said competence-based, but I also agree that competency with a hyphen is correct. I am not also a linguistic, but that could be correct. It is 10 years into it. What is the government really can say is proud of 10 years into it?
Is that question to me? Yes. Great. Now, let me say this. Having been Minister for Higher Education at some point in my career, it was not lost on me how central education was to the development of a nation, and how education could influence all the other sectors of society. Why are we here? We are here because education is the single most important investment any society or nation can roll out. It's the single most important investment. The development of our human capital is the single most important to a nation. From the position I sit in as president, if there is one very important thing is to have an educated, informed society. Number two, we are investing close to 700 billion, 28% of our budget. If education was not important, we wouldn't be investing that amount of money. And number three, we have close to, how many million learners was it? 11 million learners, our children, in this space. And therefore, the coming together of these stakeholders, sponsors of schools, managers of schools, education leaders, government, to bring together our ideas, as I said, to refine what is working, to change what is not working, to improve, and to uptake new ideas is a very central part of the development of education. We've had instances where people take to podia in political rallies, in church meetings, in funerals, in weddings, to say all manner of things about education. This forum here gives us an opportunity not to talk at each other, but to talk together, to talk to each other and find solutions on how we go forward together. So that is why I think this forum is very important and significant.
And let me just jump in before you put down your microphone, Your Excellency, is that the reason I'm asking why we are here is because there's a feeling that sometimes government is speaking to itself. Because the reality sometimes in the ground, let's talk about transition of grade 10 learners. You just talk about 99 point something %. But when you look at it, until yesterday, we can still see some learners who are still stuck at home. So do we have mechanisms where the government is actually getting the real data, say from the village elder to the sub-county director, and everybody else, so that we cannot be sitting and maybe just talking to ourselves in this room?
Precisely the point. That's why we have this meeting. We want to know from the stakeholders here. If, for example, we say we have hired 100,000 teachers, can OU here and the good people from Kopet, can they confirm that is the case? When we say that we have built learning spaces, is that the case? When we say that we have changed the university funding model, is that the case? Do we need Professor Mugendi and team? Can they confirm to us that that is the case, or are we talking to ourselves? That's the reason why we're here. And I think that is a very progressive way of engaging rather than finger pointing and making statements sometimes that are not verifiable.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's my colleague go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to direct my question to the Cabinet Secretary, C.S. Ogamba. When the CBE, or CBC as it was previously referred to as, when it was being introduced, it was benchmarked with curricula in countries like Canada, Singapore, Finland, and the like. Are we on track in the way we're implementing CBE to match those countries so that we may get to their development levels?
Thank you for that question. You know, the reason why CBE was introduced is because in the old model of the 844, the emphasis was on passing exams, that the the job or the paper that you do in one day determines on whether you will proceed to the next level or you won't. That meant, for example, that if a student was unwell in that particular day and he didn't do well in that paper, his grades came down and he's not able to move to the next stage. The competency-based education is a skill-based system where everything that the student does accounts for something from day one. The assessments start from the classroom work that you do, and it accounts for a percentage. So that by the time you're doing an exam, what you have gotten in the process of learning enables you to progress to the next level. Additionally, it identifies the talents, the skills, the interest of the students so that we do not always insist on having students take programs or take courses that they are not interested in. That's why we introduce the 3 pathways so that we have STEM, we have social sciences, and we have creative arts. In that way, there is no student who will miss out and that's why the transition is high, because now we are able to take each and every student to the next level based on what they are able to do. So it's work in progress. We are now on grade 10. We are moving to grade 12, transition to the universities. And then, as we continue, because the assessment is doing year in, year out, we'll evaluate the whole system at the end of the cycle. We're in the middle of the cycle. We've done 10 years currently. And it is the best system that we have. And the best way to determine that, I encourage you, get out there, talk to the students who are learning in this program, the grade 10 students, the grade 9 students, and you will see a distinct difference between them and the ones who have been doing the 844, where they concentrate too much on just an exam. But that's not to mean that the team that is in Form 3 and Form 4 currently has been left out. We're also working to ensure that we take care of them so that we leave no child behind. So it is a system that we encourage us as stakeholders here to participate. Where you find that there's something that needs to be changed, we'll do that. We are doing now competency-based center of excellence in all our 47 counties, so that schools can have a place to go to, the student can go up to have a place to go to be trained, the teachers have a training, the master is doing training for them, TSC is doing. So we are doing something in this space. What we are asking ourselves as stakeholders in education is that let us pull our intellectual resources together, because in that pool, we'll get the resolutions. That's why we've been able to amend the subjects. That's why in the first National Education Forum, when we were discussing about whether we should have mathematics as a compulsory subject in just STEM and nothing in social sciences and arts, we agreed in that particular forum that we'll have pure maths in STEM and we'll have essential maths in social science and also in arts. That is something that came out of that discussion of that forum. So we need to just put our heads together, and I am sure that by the end of this exercise, we'll be much better country than when we started. Thank you.
CS, before I put down the mic, I asked about benchmarking with other states which are doing very well, and especially because of resources. Because resourcing education is very important. The capitation for primary schools has never been reviewed since it was introduced in 2003. It remains at 1,420. The one for free-day secondary schools has never been reviewed since 2018. So, and there has been inflation and all that. Are the resources still enough? We don't have laboratories in junior schools.
That question. You know, this country has invested heavily in education. The international standard in investment of education is 20% of the budget. This country invests 28% of the budget in education. We are already above international standard by 8%, and we are continuing to increase that. The amount that is being paid for the capitation for primary school has moved from 1,020 in the year 2002 to 1,420 in the year 2018 to this July, when we'll be moving it to 2,000 300 per student. Junior school was introduced in this competency-based education, and we are giving them 14,240. Now, junior school is in the same place with primary school, meaning they share facilities. So in terms of the money that is used for primary school vis-a-vis the money that is being used by junior school with students in the same space. For example, if you're paying a watchman, you're not paying a watchman for junior school and paying another watchman for primary school. You are paying for one person. That means these resources are being utilized, and therefore, in reality, we have increased the amount for primary school substantively. Number two, we are doing now this verification exercise that we've done. Initially, we had an overestimation of the students. So the numbers that are sometimes gotten out there, you are still using the calculation of the earlier enrollment to state that, for example, we are not meeting the 22,000. The numbers have come down because there was an increment, an over-exaggeration of the numbers that we had. And that's why His Excellency is saying, we digitize, we get to know exactly how many students do we have, how many teachers do we have, how many primary schools do we have, how many secondary schools do we have. And within those resources, with accountability and prudent use of the resources that we receive, we will be able to ensure that our students have the necessary infrastructure, the necessary human capital to keep them moving in that direction. So we have done a lot in that space, and I think from where we sit, even benchmarking with the West, we are moving that much faster than they did. Thank you.
Maybe just to add just one or two things to what Waziri has said, especially to your question as to the countries we benchmarked with. You know, it's a very progressive question. Of course, we benchmarked with different countries, and there are aspects we emphasized from one country to another. And then also, we customized for the Kenyan situation, because it's not exactly what those other countries are. There are differences. So we have customized for our own space. But I sat where my good friend Julius sat once, and I will give you my personal experience. When we were reforming, you know, the Tibet sector, we took into account, for example, that the system that was there, because many people ask questions about the competence-based learning. I am a very solid believer in CBE, very solid, from experience. Why do I say that? I say that because when we were reforming the Tibet space, we used to have so many failures. You know, a mason fails the exam not because they don't have the masonry skill. It is because they failed English. So we asked ourselves, why are you forcing this mason to pass English when his skill is masonry, you know? So we scaled down the place of English, and we got many more masons passing because they knew how to do, they had the skill of masonry, but they were failing on English, you know? So that is how we managed to reform that space. Let me give you another example. And these are practical examples which we have had to delve into. What Ogamba has said, the 3 different pathways. We have many learners who are gifted differently. There are people who are not gifted on STEM subjects. They are good artists. They are good social scientists.
But when you force them into a channel that emphasizes the things they are not good at, that is why, for a very long time, our education system produced too many failures. You know? Because we were failing our learners on areas that they were not good at. So that even the areas they were good at were undermined by the areas they were not good at. That's why having 3 pathways gives all our children equal opportunity to pass on the areas they are good at. And by the way, we need all of them. We need skills in STEM. We need skills in social science. We need skills in art. They complement society. They make us the society that we are. And that is why competence-based learning is the correct thing to go, the correct education system for us. Let me conclude by saying that, and it's good for us to speak, a bit of experience, because we've been in this space for a while, really helps. And I'm sure the teachers who are here will know that. There was a very big focus on passing a single exam. A single exam determined whether you were a failure or you passed. And that is why exams became a life and death issue. That is why exams were so militarized. There were policemen everywhere, intimidating children, making the whole place, tense, and even affecting the outcome of learning itself. That's why competence learning builds on the learning experience and the learning curve of the student. Every stage accounts for the final exam, so that the final exam becomes important, but what you have gone through is equally important. So that is why I am a very strong advocate for competence-based learning.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And since we're talking accountability and leadership here, and you've revealed that that audit you ordered revealed so many ghost students and ghost schools. When are people going to court? It's our money. What are we doing about it?
Thank you very much. So what happened is, once we got that verified exercise out, we took action against our field officers in those sub-counties which are the largest number of the exaggerated enumerated numbers, and we gave them show cause letters because we have to follow due process under the human resource manuals, which requires us to complete that exercise within 6 months. That is already ongoing. We also sent that report to TSC, and they're also taking action against the particular teachers, again, through the process of disciplinary processes, who were the heads of those institutions that were affected. Over and above that, we invited the DCI, and officers are now in our offices, undertaking and scrutinizing those processes to find out who it is or who is involved in any sort of malpractice or fraud in our institutions. The reason is really simple. We are giving you capitation. Capitation doesn't come to your phone. It goes to the bank. So there's somebody who goes to the bank, signs for that money. If it's a ghost school, they now go to the bank, find out who signed for that particular bank account, and they are doing the investigation. The process is going on, but we've stopped the leakage as the first step, which what we have done. So we are no longer releasing capitation to institutions or ghost students that exist. But the process is ongoing, and you see, you cannot correct a wrong with another wrong. This is a country of laws. Once you accuse somebody, you collect the evidence, you process. What we did ourselves is to verify and hand over the report to the investigative agencies who have the capacity to undertake that exercise. And we do not want to condemn anybody unheard. The relevant culprits will be called, they will write down statements, and then they'll be taken to court. But believe you me, they are going to go to court, and we are going to recover those resources using the asset recovery system, because they are there, they are known.
Maybe where my colleague left, Bwana Waziri, you talked about the laws and the processes. You have been talking about the school fees and no extra charges, but we have seen schools charging school fees. It remains pronouncements and parents are still paying. So what is being done? And what are these channels that actually a parent can use either not to pay that fee because it is illegal, or the actions taken against those principals? And also the question would, maybe the important thing to clarify is that, is it that the principals find the money that the government is giving too little to use, hence their need to charge extra?
Let me start by responding to your last question, where the argument has been that the money is not enough. For example, in boarding schools, we charge the circular, the government-approved fee is 53,000. Now, 53,000 is for boarding facilities, food, and other things. Government is paying for infrastructure. Government is paying for the teachers. Government is paying for the books. Government is paying for all these other things. Now, what has happened is that there are people, scrupulous out there, who have introduced budgetary items into the budget of schools that are non-essential, thereby raising the cost of running those institutions. For example, the latest case that we are handling, where school fees was raised from the 53,000 that is allowed to 120,000. But when we looked through, our quality assurance officers did the report, they found several budget lines in the budget that are non-essential, that are not core to what a school should be doing. For instance, 26 million for going to Dubai. 26 million for going to Dubai. 13 million for speeches during prize giving. So 1.3 million for spiritual nourishment. Then you say government is not, the money is not enough. And you know, all I like us to do, because the argument has been that we are not able to implement the policies. That is because our quality assurance officers are not enough, we don't have enough, and by the time they reach, they find maybe something has been done and moved on. But now we are going to the BOMs, the Board of Management, and some of them are here, and we are saying you must interrogate the budget that you are passing. What does it include? Is that something that is essential to learning? So that you do not increase abnormally the cost of running institutions. So that argument of them is not enough is far-fetched, because there are many other factors, and of course there are a lot of wastage and things like that. But we are saying now, we are acting. Action has been taken. I know TSC has taken proceedings. Yesterday, the County Education Board was meeting to deal with that case, and it is a warning to each and every school head here. If you are involved in undertaking, increasing the school fees, using those levies that are against the circulars that we've issued, you will face the consequences. There's no question about it. It might take a bit of time, but we are going to get you. You will face the consequences. Number two, the schools that are insisting, for example, for students to pay for trips. A school has 2,000 students. Say each student is paying 15,000 for trips. Does every student in every term go for a trip? Tell me. 2,000 students are going for a trip per term. So let us be realistic about these things, and everybody who is appointed to the BOMs, and we've worked with the members of parliament, they've agreed to support us, so that there is nowhere to run. Once we get you, you can't go to your member of parliament, you can't go to your heads of tribes or whatever to say, you know, we are being targeted. It's not going to happen. So we are going to deal with you because the regulations are there, and we want the media, before you say this money is not enough, please visit and ask them, let us see the list of what is being supported, so that you help us, because we are all stakeholders. His Excellency has indicated we have 11 million students. If we have two parents, that is another 22 million people, plus 11. Each and every household is affected, including those people who are saying we do not have enough money to support the students. So help, and that's why we are working here together so that we can put our heads together, analyze the situation, and be realistic about what needs to happen. And if something has to be increased, there is a procedure, and you have to bring that order for approval so that everybody knows there was a bus. This is what the parents agreed, and this is what everybody is going to pay. How, for example, can you buy a bus for 10 years? Every year, you're charging for a bus. You understand what I'm trying to say? So let's sort these things out, and we thank you for that question.
Thank you very much. My next question goes to Professor Mugendi. Professor Mugendi, just hold the mic. It is now 3 years since we introduced the new funding model for higher education, because it was introduced in May 2023. There have been teething problems with the model. Is it time to review to see what is working and what is not working and change? And can you tell us what challenges, as a manager of a university, what challenges do you face? At the beginning, there were pending bills of about 60 billion, and I think from the last report I saw, it has risen to close to 100 billion. Is it working? Or what can we do?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, I want to confirm that it's now 3 years since we changed university funding, and we introduced what we call the student-centered funding model, where money follows students. And indeed, for us at the universities, we found this model to be excellent, and indeed a model that was able to target and ensure that we are funding students that are most needy. Before that, the way the government was funding universities was an open blanket, whereby everybody was being funded at the same level, even students who did not need really to be funded. But this model is able to identify the most needy students through the MTI, or the mean testing instrument, so that then funding is targeted such that the most needy are the ones that are supported the most. And I want to say, when we introduced this model in July of 2023, 2023-2024 was an excellent year because all the students were funded fully. The household component that the student was supposed to pay, that went to the household. There was a bit of an issue there, but by and large, what each household was supposed to pay, they paid. Then the scholarships, that was a government component. Again, that was paid very well through the university funding board. And then help, the loans that then came for those respective students. And that happened. And I want to confirm that either two, yes, we and that accumulated accumulated bills that were owned by the university to the universities, amounting to about 8 billion or thereabout. And indeed, by June of 2023, we and 23 of our 38 universities then being technically insolvent. But when we introduced this model in 2023, by 2024 in June, 13 universities had come out of that insolvency, and we were doing very well. So we were only left with 10 universities that were technically insolvent, 10, and the hope was that in the coming 2 or so years, then we'll be able to get even those that were in that ICU, so to speak, out of it. So I would want to say that the model is working. It's only that we need to look at then how we are funding this going forward. But to us, it's a very excellent model. And we want, as Vice Chancellors, we want to thank the government for really supporting us in this area. And moving forward, we will make it better. Indeed, we are doing that. We have a committee that is continually working to ensure that the model is refined and working as it's supposed to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I would like, maybe as a follow-up to that, Your Excellency, because it's still about funding higher education. Currently, HELB has a funding gap because it was allocated 41 billion against a requirement of 74 billion. And then the scholarship component requires 29 billion, but was allocated 17 billion. So we have a gap, meaning that there are students who are not funded, or the money is spread across, so the students are not getting adequate funding. What are you going to do about this, sir?
Thank you very much. I think just to give the broad view of where this was. In 2022-23, the total money that went to universities was about 45 billion. We have since increased that amount to 82 billion in the last budget, almost doubled the money going to universities. And it was because of what Professor Mugendi has said. We have since changed the model so that parents who can afford, in fact, there are parents who are asking, why are you giving me a scholarship? Or why are you giving me a loan? I want to pay for my child. And about 18,000 parents paid. They didn't, because we changed the model so that every student has to apply. In the past, the scholarships and loans were given without anybody applying. We just decided to give to every student. And that is why we were spreading resources across too many students, and therefore, that's how universities ended up in trouble. So there are parents now who don't see the value of applying. They want to pay for their, and that is how resources have also increased in the universities. Number two, there were, as Professor Mugendi has said, 23 universities that were technically insolvent. They couldn't pay lecturers, they couldn't pay suppliers, they couldn't pay statutory payments, NHIF, NSSF, and all that. And these are real cases. You know, for example, Egerton University in this very county was paying half salary to their lecturers, you know, because the thing was just not working. Today, that has changed. I was, for example, at Cooperative College. You remember we were. And I asked the Vice Chancellor, and I told him, please tell me what has changed. And Professor, I think it's called Kamau or somebody. Professor Kamau told me, Mr. President, I can now pay my salaries. I can now pay my suppliers. And I can also pay taxes. Because the model has brought in more resources from government and more resources from parents. So we just have to be realistic with ourselves. The parents who can afford to pay, we give them a chance to pay. The parents who cannot afford to pay, we assess them. That's why the means testing instrument, so that the parents who need more scholarship, we give them more scholarship. The kids who need more loan, we give them more loan. But I agree with you that we haven't quite solved the problem. The gap still exists. And that is why you heard me say earlier that because there still exists a gap, we've solved half the problem. In fact, the model is not what we did in 2023. We have since reviewed it in 2024. We have reviewed it in 2025.
We've even brought in students from universities to come and sit down with other stakeholders to look at the model. And we've even picked suggestions from students that maybe this would be better than the other. And we brought them on board. And we've made this, not us versus them. We've made it a collaboration. And that's why I like even this meeting. It's about us talking together. So there is still room. And that is why I said when I spoke here that I have instructed this good man, Monari, and my team to sit down because the requirement is still heavy. And maybe the budget alone cannot solve it. And that's why I'm looking at what other ways are we designing to make sure that we can fund education fully, we can fund health fully, and we can fund all the scholarships fully and all the loans fully. It is also the reason why I persuaded this country that let us have a national infrastructure fund, because there are items today in our budget that can be funded differently. They do not need resources from the budget. There are items that really should sit in our budget, and these are the social aspects, education, health, so that you will see in our next budget, because now we have the National Infrastructure Fund, we're going to enhance resources going to health, and we're going to enhance resources going to education, because some of the items that were occupying that space in the budget, we will now move them into the PPP framework, the National Infrastructure Fund, and that kind of thing. So you're right, there are still gaps, but we have gone halfway, done with the problem halfway. We still have some homework to do, and we are working on it. Report itamalizika lini Monari? Can you?
Your Excellency, we have already concluded the report, and we are working with your team, and I believe that by next week we'll present it to you for implementation in the next financial year.
Thank you very much for that answer. And Mr. Monari, also thank you.
All right. So let me come to you, Secretary General Bwana Uyu. I know the CS talked about stopping the industrial action, which is a good thing for the country to move ahead. Let's talk about teachers and the number of teachers that we currently have, because I know there are still gaps when it comes to also the number of teachers we have. And as you talk about the gaps within the teaching fraternity, talk about the JSS intern teachers, which I saw the other day. There was a court order, and then Supreme Court ruled about intern teachers. You have 44,000 who are out there. What is their plan from where you are? And talk about the gaps in terms of the number of teachers that we have currently in the country.
Thank you very much. Allow me first of all to appreciate this conference and really equally appreciate His Excellency the President, the Minister. Indeed, a game changer. That is why I decided to come over with my team to attend this conference. One thing, when you ask me about industrial action, that is not why I'm employed. I'm a teacher by profession. And I lead a team that is qualified as teachers, then they're elected as union officials. I think I'll surprise this gathering when you see the number that is here. Secretaries of branches, 110 across the Republic. My National Executive Council and National Steering. Before I answer that question, can you be upstanding so that the team, they're all there. So thank you. Now the issue of employment of teachers and maybe staffing in this country. His Excellency did explain, and I want to repeat. The Education Charter, Kenya Kwanza, emphasized in this sector employment of more teachers. And we are proud to announce here, and I would really stop any other person who says that the government is speaking to itself. I want to speak on behalf of the government because these are our teachers. We have over 100,000 teachers employed between 2022 to date. That's a big plus. And we cannot hide, Your Excellency. I'll also ask Your Excellency, with due respect and honor, let us talk about this as representatives of teachers. Because when it comes from you, it means that others will politicize and say, this is what His Excellency is saying. But take it from the leader of Kenya National Union of Teachers, a union that is led by order and discipline. We have over 100,000 teachers employed as we speak now. Thank you, Your Excellency. The issue of intern teachers, it is true. The shortage allowed the government to fill gaps of acute, it is now acute, 5,000 teachers per year. We were talking about over 100,000 shortage by 2022. So the government employed P&P and interns. We accepted as a union because we sat and discussed it. What went amiss? And we hold on Teacher Service Commission to explain this to us. Teachers should not be referred to as interns because they are trained and qualified. We should refer to them as teachers on contract, and a contract should go for a specific period of time. So that every 2 years, we get back to TSC and say, yes, the contract was 2 years. Teachers signed. When are you making them P&P? And we proceed. Last year's World Teachers' Day had a theme that went all over substantially. Recasting teaching as a collaborative profession. So on issues that we raise, we need not make a lot of noise, but sit with the employer and have this issue solved. And I want to put it across here to all of us. There's a big difference between activism and unionism. Activism thrives on noise, demonstrations, without even going through the structures that are there. Kenya National Union of Teachers depends on structures, and these structures must be followed before we proceed to industrial action. So right now, we visited Teacher Service Commission so that we can agree on when these teachers can be employed on a P and a P. They have to give us reasons why they're still outside, because some will be, intertwined with issues of finance and so on and so forth. But our target, our focus, is to have all teachers in this republic employed on permanent and pensionable terms. But we must sit. Trade unionism of the 21st century is different. I'm a representative of Education International, African Region Zone 5. I represent 7 countries. And we are trained on how to approach issues with government and establishments, so that my position as a Secretary General must be respected by and large. When I make a statement, It is on behalf of those I represent. If you ask them here, none of them will even make a statement before I speak. That is the order and discipline in the 21st century trade unionism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oyu, for at least confirming that what we have said here is correct. But let me also say this to the Teacher Service Commission, and before Chair. Let me explain the background for why we discuss the issue of intern teachers. We have three issues. We have learners who have no teachers. And then we have teachers who are not employed. And then we have limited resources. What do we do? So we said, let us have a compromise. Let us employ teachers on contract. I think we are going to correct it. We will not. We have no problem saying. We thought interns was a good word, but if Nat and the teachers union want us to say contract, we will call it contract. We employ teachers on contract for 2 years with a commitment, firm commitment, that after the 2 years contract, they will transition without any other interview or whatever. They will transition automatically to permanent and pensionable. That is the commitment that I made. That is what I bargained for. Because that way, we solve all the three problems in one. Number one, we make sure that all our children in school have a teacher. We also make sure that many of our teachers who are tamarking have a job. And the limited resources we have as a government also can pay them. And I want to thank the teaching fraternity. I think there was a big debate before. There was a lot of pushback before. But we have to be realistic about where we are. This is our country. It's not fair to increase taxes. We're already spending 28% of our budget on education. To push it any further would be a bit more difficult and crowd out other necessities and priorities as well. So that is how we ended up with intern teachers. But I want to ask the TSC. I hope there are no teachers that have served more than 2 years as interns, because that is not what I bargained for. Any teacher can only serve for 2 years on contract, after which they transition automatically. Is that the case, Bwana Chairman?
Yes, sir. They only work for 2 years, and we convert them to permanent and pensionable terms automatically without any further interview.
That is the bargain we had for, because we understood, and we understand this. I get messages on my phone from intern teachers. They are on my case. Mr. President, when are you going to confirm us? Sometimes they do it in a code. I could see this is a plan. They bombard my phone, harass me and do all those things. I really wish I could do it automatically, but I have to persuade them that I know that whatever you earn as a contract teacher may not be enough, but, I'm just requesting that we work on the transition. It won't be for long. I think as the situation improves, we are now doing contract for 2 years. Maybe along the way we will reduce it to 1 year, and then we will see how when our situation improves, we can put more resources and be able to hire all our teachers on permanent and pensionable basis from the beginning. So this is the situation where we are. And finally, I needed to explain, why we have intern teachers, and I hope the TSC has no problem not referring to them as interns, because according to OU, and is correct, these are qualified teachers. They are not interns. They are fully qualified. We can refer them to being on contract, but then with the terms that as soon as that contract expires, they transition into PNP. That should be your contracting situation, because we will provide you the resources for that transition, because it's a commitment that I made. Number 2 is on industrial action. Jebet, wacha uchochezi, please. Because, this space has been filled with, maandamanos, people with sufurias on their heads, and all manner of things. And sometimes, teachers, they don't do it out of the fact that they like to do it, because they are also parents. No parent wants to go roaming in the streets with sufurias, because you have all children. We all have children. But they do it, of course, as a last resort. But we decided, and I gave very firm and clear instructions to the ministry, that let us confront the collective bargaining agreements. Let us negotiate ahead of industrial action. And we have done it in health. We have done it in education. That is why there has not been a serious strike in the last 3 years. Not because they didn't want to go on strike, but we decided that let's engage them. And there were people who were accusing the teachers' unions, why have you signed the collective bargaining agreement? But that's the basis of the engagement between teachers and government. Once we honor their collective bargaining agreement, they have no reason to engage in industrial action. And my commitment to the teaching fraternity and to all the other spaces is that we will go ahead of time. We have, for example, we had a problem with the doctors. We decided to pay them whatever previous governments had committed to. I didn't say it's not my place to do it. We decided to pay whatever it was. I'm sure we spent close to 3.7 billion shillings to pay what was the backlog. And the teacher unions were also very understanding. They allowed us to pay it in phases and that kind of thing. So I really want to persuade us that instead of confrontation, in a meeting like this, we can find greater collaboration. And we can find greater understanding. And that way, we don't make the business of teaching difficult, we don't affect our learners, and we don't put teachers also at a point where they have to go to the streets instead of being in classrooms. So I think this is what I just wanted to say.
Thank you, Excellency. I started by saying it's a good thing for all of us. Thank you so much for that. And let me just bring in Reverend Gatu. And you're representing chaplains in our institutions, which we know that they play a critical role in bringing up our children in schools. Maybe just talk about the issues also that you raised earlier on the chaplainship in our institutions and a token, as you call it.
And I want to say that I represent both the chaplains. The chaplains are coming from the sponsors, the religious sponsors across board, across all the faiths. They come in to support our education delivery. We have been in the education sector. We have invested a lot, even in infrastructure in the past. And we continue to be ready to continue investing, especially in supporting moral and spiritual formation, which is one of the goals of our education. And we have hundreds and I think now in thousands of chaplains in many schools across the country. And the education policy talks about these chaplains should be supplied to the schools at the expense of the sponsor. I think it's only in basic education specifically where the government is not allowed by law to support chaplains. Because in all other sectors, universities, wherever else, the money that may be spent, for example, in basic education to do moral and formation is, as you have seen in the past recent issue, is called an illegal allocation. Because there's no other way. Because the Act says the government shouldn't pay. So as chaplains, we've been talking about this, and we are ready to continue collaborating, and we do, not only in terms of the government paying, but also having a conversation, because I believe it is, as a sponsor, the sponsors can do something, but also that collaboration should be allowed by law. We continue to be happy with the competence-based education. As chaplains, we had a meeting recently, and we evaluated the situation. When people get stressed, when people don't have jobs, when people have failed exams, they come to us for counseling. And when we see a system whereby all are valued and they come out all winners, we are happy for that. And Your Excellency, we are happy for the CBE education, and we are happy for that. And we hope that the teething problems here and there in terms of allocation of resources and so on, labs and so on, will be catered for. But we would want to have a more collaborative approach between the educations, all the stakeholders. And Your Excellency, you mentioned all of them, and you said we should all collaborate. And I hope that that will be, we are going to enhance that. We are ready as sponsors, as religious sponsors. We are ready as chaplains to continue. And I said we have thousands of them in schools, not supported by in any way, but self-sponsoring themselves. The sponsors are sponsoring them, because even schools, they find it very necessary. Every school in this country that has a name has a chaplain. And I believe this is something that we continue conversation around. We have from 2017, for example, been trying to say, what do chaplains do in school? Many of the stakeholders here know we have many chaplains who have been doing work in school, but even principals have not been able to say what they do. In 2017, the Minister of Education came up and said we want to do guidelines on just guiding chaplains what they do. Your Excellency, since that time, nobody wants to finish that process. We've been trying to move, and nobody wants to have it completed. I believe that's a very basic guideline, just to tell the chaplains, now that you are in schools, what are you supposed to do? And we sit down together, the minister and all, and ask ourselves, what are they supposed to do? I would encourage that we be collaborative. The religious sponsors are ready to support the system of education. The task forces that have been there, we have had the religious representation. We have given very good input, including the recent presidential task force. And the government at the higher level has been listening to the religious community and inputting a lot of input. And I believe that we can do more collaboration. And I hope I've answered the question that you asked.
Yes, you did. You did. Thank you so much. Let me just bring in Waziri on the issue of textbooks in grade 10, which I know the latest data shows that 11 million books have been distributed. Do we have data that shows specific subjects in schools? Because there are few principals who are saying they are yet to receive enough, because we find 5 to 6 learners are sharing a book. So is it the difference when it comes to, others actually are saying, is it the principals who took so many students beyond their capacity? So talk to us about that shortage of textbooks, and if there is a database where you can say English, this number of students in this country are needing these books.
Thank you, and the CEO for KICD is here. He'll be able to give more details on it. But as you know, when grade 10 transitioned, grade 9 transitioned to grade 10, a number of students requested for transfers from one school to another. So during that time, the data that was being used was the data that had been previously presented to KICD for the distribution of the textbooks, so that the ratio of 1-to-1 per subject was to be met. Now, because of that movement, the KICD did a circular or a request to all the principals to do another return to indicate, yes, last year we had put in a requisition, for example, for 600 books. Now we have 620. so that then KICD could then do the rationalization of that process and redistribute the books to the various institutions. Some who had more were asked to return those books, and those who didn't have were requested to give in the information so that they can get. But easy, I can answer that question more appropriately.
Thank you very much, our Cabinet Secretary. Maximum respects, Your Excellency. In addition to what the Cabinet Secretary has said, we have now got responses from the principals on the actual numbers of learners taking actual subjects. But as we talk today, we have to verify those numbers through our sub-county directors of education so that we are sure that the numbers the principals are giving us are the exact numbers of learners, because we don't want it to run into the problems that took place before verification. We have given that process 1 week, and after that 1 week, we should be able to tell the publishers, now these students in these schools have this shortage, and they'll get back the books before the end of this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe just so that I can assist from where I sit. You see, this data thing is actually at the heart of solving many of our problems. And it is the reason why we shouldn't be waiting for a teacher to send us returns. If we digitize this data, we can authoritatively know how many students are in school X. And we just send the correct number of books to that school. That is why this digitization is very important. We've traveled a journey, a long journey to getting it where we've gotten it. I'm very happy that Ogamba here tells me now they are ready for the rollout. You said on 10th, 15th. It'll be the first time we on board, we go live. And then that is with the secondary. And then 2 weeks later, we go live with the primary and make sure that we have all this data so that KICD will authoritatively send books, the correct number, to every school, because we will have their data onboarded on a digital platform. Number two, two things that my good friend Chaplain Gatu, my good friend Gatu here said on the matter of chaplaincy. It is true that maybe a conversation has to be done, because he says it's been hanging because nobody wants to deal with it. So I think in a forum like this, we need to have a conversation. What is the job of the chaplain? What is the job of guidance and counseling? Who does it? Do we have teachers who do guidance and counseling, psychologists? What is the training of the chaplain? What kind of a chaplain? What are the qualifications of a chaplain? Once we have identified what they are supposed to do, then we can have qualifications so that if they are supposed to do job X, they must have the qualifications to accomplish that responsibility. So I think this is the conversation that we need to have. And then we will also need to have who pays them. Okay, we have schools that are sponsored by churches, but we also have schools that are not sponsored by anybody, government schools that are not sponsored by anybody. What happens? You know, that kind of conversation is what needs to be done. And Waziri, I'm sure a forum like this will provide a good space. We can have suggestions, it can be refined, and then it can be approved. And then as government, we can pick them up, take them to Parliament, we create a policy, and then subsequently we generate either regulations or a piece of legislation to guide that process. And finally, to the conversation, I just wanted to bring to the, to buttress what I said about being frontal with engagement. There was a problem with SHA, with teachers, about a month ago, when there was a problem of co-pay, you know. It came to us as, because we were trying to protect teachers' money not to be eaten by some of the hospitals that we know. Then some people went overboard. But I'm very happy the minister came with his team, the teachers' unions came with their teams, they sat down, and they agreed and sorted out the problem. Now we have clarity on what is going to happen. And I want to say, when I engage teachers, the scheme that they had before was actually working against teachers, because they had access to only 900 hospitals. Today, they have access to 9,000 hospitals across the country. Their scheme was good on paper, but was not good in practice. So we have now changed that, and I want to confirm to the teaching fraternity that we are going to make your terms better. Because why? Look, we were paying an average of 24 billion shillings every year for the private insurance. Under SHA, we're going to be spending between 15 and 16 billion. We are saving close to 7 billion shillings every year. Just imagine. Money that was being shared by characters in this town. And they are the ones who are sponsoring all manner of things. Headline this today, they put another headline tomorrow, they put another story, social media, blah, blah, blah. You know, because they have lost, you know, the gravy train. We've stopped the gravy train. But, and that is why when you see all these screaming headlines, oh, SHA is not working, I don't know, the teachers have rejected SHA, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And you see them in the headline. When you go to read the story inside, there is nothing. It is because it's sponsored, you know, because they want a crisis so that they take us back where they were making 7 billion shillings every year. I want to promise you that will not happen anymore. Not under my administration. Not when I don't know where the right thing is. We will stop them. They have eaten enough. So we are going to work with these teachers. Instead of us paying those characters more money, we better improve the terms of to the teachers, because they work for it.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, and thank you, our esteemed panelists. We really appreciate your input this day. I just want to give each and every one of us to give our closing remarks. We will end with the President, so we start from Reverend. Give us your last remarks, kindly.
As religious sponsors of the churches and chaplains, we are happy to continue collaborating, especially to making the CBE work, based on what I said earlier, that CBE emphasizes on valuing a person for who they are and excluding the discrimination in terms of access and in terms of creating competencies, and also giving our children and the citizens a destiny. So we are ready to continue collaborating and working together, and we hope, as I said, that we shall continue collaborating and having more conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you very much. I also want to emphasize the fact that education is the greatest equalizer, where the poor man's son, daughter, the rich man's son, daughter, meet together in university and get qualifications where they all work together as equals. I also want to say here that we really appreciate the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. which of course is the basis of the discussions here on success and maybe progress that we've made so far. We should at all times be very cautious in disrupting education. And I don't want to leave here without saying this out publicly. One of my colleagues talked about autonomy. Autonomy for junior school teachers. If we really understand the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms and the structures that are there in the recommendations, I think we should be the last people as teachers to talk about autonomy. Because look at it, the education budget is constrained. Then you want to introduce another school again within another institution. Because the clamor here is about leadership for grade 7, 8, and 9. And let us all listen to this. When our young teachers claim that heads of those institutions are not qualified to lead them, the qualification here they're referring to is the degree that maybe they have as young men and women. But TSC will confirm here that 90% of our teachers in public schools are graduates. They are graduates. Yes. Head teachers are graduates. So leadership is not about papers. It is experience and how long you've taken to climb to that level. When I came from college, I was the only P1 in that institution. The rest were P4s. I don't even imagine that I should be the deputy head teacher of that institution. So let us get it right, and very soberly. The moment we talk about what was not in this recommendation, then we are hell-bent to destroy what we've achieved so far. So leadership is about being firm. You heard about it. We are firm, and we want to say here that autonomy has no place in the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. Because grade 7, 8, and 9 successfully domiciled in primary institutions. I want to say here that the greatest public participation that I've ever come across in this sector was this one that was carried by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. We all participated. So don't bring in what is not in the reforms.
Thank you.
That is out of question.
Thank you, SG.
So I also want to say here that let us go international on matters education. If we want to go to Singapore, why do we bring ourselves back on matters education by segmenting education again? I want to believe that one time, grade ECD, grade 1, grade 9 to grade 12 will be in one institution. And parents will tell you how they've achieved on matters transition to grade 7, 8, and 9 in expenditure. Imagine grade 7 in high school, the secondary school, grade 8 in secondary school, grade 9 in secondary school. This transition has been very seamless, and I shall forever support the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. Thank you so much.
Thank you, SG. Waziri, your last.
Yeah, thank you. Let me first take this opportunity to thank Your Excellency for being magnanimous enough to be in this particular meeting for this long. We thank you and we don't take it for granted. And to all the stakeholders here, I just want to confirm to you and give a commitment on behalf of the Ministry of Education that the team here beginning from the highest office in the country, is a listening team. We will receive your recommendations, we'll receive your proposals, we'll discuss, we'll debate, and we'll come up with the best possible solution to the problems or challenges that face our sector, because we are all participants in it, we are all stakeholders in it. So let's continue engaging, let's continue solving the problems. The problems will not stop, but what is important is the capacity to face those problems, face those challenges at the first instance, and get a solution for them, for our system to move forward. So thank you for agreeing to be here, for participating. Participate, as I said, authentically, be honest in your deliberations, be open so that we can get the best possible solution. But thank you, and thank you for all the support that you continue giving us in the ministry. Asante sana.
For me, I also want to thank His Excellency for the support we have continued to receive from this current government in our institutions of higher learning, the universities. And I really say that the student-centered funding model, as I said, is a very good model for all of us. And indeed, it's working. But as was pointed out, we still have some challenges, especially the funding gap that was pointed out, and the government is addressing that together with ourselves to see then how best we are able to get over that. And therefore, I would want to say that we'll continue to work together to be able to make this really work, because that's why we are in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And again, I appreciate your time. Give us your last remarks.
Thank you very much. Let me join the good people who have talked here by thanking everybody. I know that a forum like this brings people from different facets, with different ideas, with different experiences, and that is the hybriding of ideas that we need for us to come up with what is not just good, but what is the best. Number two, this is a forum for us to listen to one another. Without, creating a political storm. It's for people to share ideas with decorum in a place where we all can listen to one another. And as Julius has said, we are ready, we are willing to listen. And that is why we have, when we had issues with funding model, we sat down, we brought stakeholders back again, we listened, and we crafted a compromise position that helps us, all of us, move forward. It's the same with all the other outstanding issues that will be canvassed here. I'm going to give you 2 assignments, but before I do that, I know OU has said about the subject of autonomy, which is a debate with the JSS teachers and all the other people. I am sure you will have a conversation, and if the issue is qualifications, that we want the school to be led by a graduate. I think already 90% of the people who are leading schools as are graduates. So I think that's a conversation that can be done without too much friction and create understanding. But let me say the following. I agree, and I am very proud of the outcome of the Presidential Working Party. I think we had 20,000 representations. Those are very comprehensive public participation exercise. And it took time. I even had to increase the time. I think we went all the way to about 8 months of consultations around the country. But let me say the following. I have had 2 experiences. Lenana School in Nairobi. I went to Lenana School and asked the school, because you have a whole 200 acres, that quite a bit of it is bush, please let us build a primary school. Because the community around Lenana School did not have a school. The only school that was present actually in that, it's called Ngando area, was a private school that actually collapsed, and I think we lost lives because it was made of wood and it was a story building. And so when I went to, when that accident happened and I went there and I saw what had happened and I saw Lenana School was nearby, I tried to request them. But you know, there was a problem. They pushed back. They said, no, they don't want a primary school, blah, blah, blah. But finally, I managed to persuade Lenana School to give us land. And I told them they didn't need to transfer land to primary school. It will remain Lenana School, but it will be the primary section of Lenana School. We have built a school there. In fact, I built with my own resources. We now have 2,000. I think we now have 2,400 students in that school. The community there, which is not an upmarket community, now have a place for their children to go. That's one experience. Then there is my old school, Kapsabet Boys High School, where I did my A-levels. Kapsabet decided to do the opposite. They didn't wait for anybody to tell them to do a primary school. They actually built a primary school. And today, Kapsabet Boys High School starts from ECD. And it is one school. One school. And I was going to sponsor the principal of Lenana School to go and see what's happening in Kapsabet. For them to understand that you can actually have a school that starts from ECD all the way to secondary school, to senior school. And there is absolutely no issue. And it is managed and run as one school. This is something that maybe can be a subject of conversation, especially in schools that have land. For example, Nairobi School. I don't see why Nairobi School, and I am building some dormitory and classrooms in Nairobi School. And yet the community around Nairobi School, they don't have a primary school. I think some of these institutions need to consider, extending, facilities, and government can come in and add more. So I'm just proposing that we need to exercise our minds. Is it a possibility that some of the schools can actually be both combined and work? Number two, assignment number two, we need to have a conversation about scholarships. We've had a big debate, fragmented scholarships. Members of parliament are giving scholarships, counties are giving scholarships, sponsors are giving scholarships, philanthropies are giving scholarships. And sometimes there is a lot of duplication in that space. Can we have a channel? And digitization is going to provide us a framework where through digitization, we will identify all the needy students and put them on one platform so that whoever has money, you don't have to go and look for a student. You will come to that platform, pick 10, pick 20, pick 100, sponsor them. They will have already been identified that they are needy students. So that is another conversation I would really want you guys to have. This forum is a good forum because it has all the stakeholders. And assignment number 3 that I would want to give to this forum is the issue of uniforms. There is a big debate about uniforms and how much they cost. You know, we have all manner of suppliers. Working with schools, you find that some uniforms, you know, I don't know whether they are Stefano Ricci or they are what, because they are very expensive. We need to agree on uniforms. How are they going to be procured? How do we make sure that they are cost effective? There are those who are saying we should not have uniforms. I don't know what their ideas are. How do we, granted, you know, you don't have to be dressed in a certain way to learn, but this is the debate we must have so that we create a uniform playing field, but certainly we need to discuss about the cost of uniform. It is becoming an impediment to education, especially in some schools where uniforms are very expensive. So this is a conversation I think this forum can undertake. Otherwise, I do not want to say more. I am very passionate about this. I could speak for longer because when I got the privilege to be Minister for Higher Education, I realized that this was a very important space and with a lot of impact on human development and national development. I wish you all wonderful consultations, and this forum is here for us to exchange ideas and better education outcomes in the process. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And it's my singular honor now to return this to Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
A round of applause to the panelists, please. I'll kindly request your indulgence, Your Excellency, for a quick photo with the panelists together with the moderators. Let's have a quick photo, a standing photo, please. Let's all be standing. We'll start with the moderators in, then I'll ask the moderators to step out and the 2 PSs to join in. For the photo to look good, I'm told the chairs need to move out, so allow us to do that. All right. Then let me ask the PSs to come in, please. PSs present. PSs. All right, Chair, and we can join in kindly. Then after that, we'll all exit stage as we wind up with the national anthem. Let's look at the camera, please, in front. All right. Thank you. I'll request that we all exit stage except His Excellency. As the rest of us, please rise as we now come to a close of this opening ceremony with the national anthem. So let us all be upstanding as we come to a close of this particular ceremony with the national anthem. Just hold. The anthem. I'll request that we all